What is up, everybody, and welcome to NBA edition of Grinderslive in the afternoon. I'm your host, Head Chopper, and we're going to break down some of the players for tonight's 8-game slate, I believe it is, for Friday night, TGIF. We're going to do it, and then after us, you're going to get some baseball, so you get the best of both worlds. But joined on this Friday program to close out the NBA week, the work week, is my boy, Big Dre. Dre, how are you doing, man?
Doing pretty good over here, just hanging in there, trying to hopefully make some good lineups tonight, so I could win some money and recuperate from last night's disaster.
It always feels good to go into the weekend with a big win if you can. So that's what we're trying to do. That's our goal here. And guys, we appreciate you tuning in. And if you got any questions, like, you can drop them now, you can drop them later. I guarantee at the end of the show we'll get to it. We'll get to it unless we're just totally swamped. But we'll get to your question. And I'm pretty sure this show is free on YouTube for everybody, and it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. So because it's free, we only ask, if you could hit that like button and subscribe to the YouTube Rotogrinders channel. So, that kind of helps pave the way for a show like this and the baseball show coming up afterwards. So that would go a long way. But questions, please get them in the chat. Our producer, Devin, going to take note of all of them. And we're going to work through them later on in the show. And I also got to drop in the chat here. I also got to drop a link right now in the chat for a little $10 off program here. You can now select specified sports for your premium package on Rotogrinders. Our select combo includes just about everything except for NASCAR. You got a link here for $10 off. Somebody was asking me in Discord the other day about the Core 4. I don't think the Core 4 is a thing anymore. It's now you get to pick what you want here in your premium package. You combo it up. So it's a good deal, man. I believe that we have at Rotogrinders some of the best information all around. You can have some sites focus on football and they're good at it. Some are really good at basketball. They're good at that. And, some are good at baseball, but no, I don't think anybody has the all around baseball, basketball, football, MMA, yada, 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 that we have at RG. So pick the best ones that you want, pick the ones that you're most favored, and get in on that. So we got that going on now. Dre, it's that time of year. We're beset and besieged with injuries all over the NBA. So it would behoove us to walk through a few of the injuries that are popping up already on our screen for Friday. And maybe we'll get SBK in here in about 7-8 minutes. We think he might pop up here in a little bit. He may be taking a nap, so we'll got to play that by ear. But in the meantime, let's talk about some injuries. Brooklyn is out there. James Harden is out. Kevin Durant's out. We know that. Kyrie's not even on the injury report, so we know he's going to be in there. It's against Portland, man, and that's a great matchup. And these guys aren't acting like they need to win games. Everybody's kind of resting. Even teams that you think you should be trying to get home court advantage and lock up playoff spots, and they're still doing weird things. But you got to think, if he's on the court, they still need to win. They still want to try to secure home court in the East if they can. So, man, is this your guy, Kyrie? Is he your big dog tonight?
Yeah, he is. I think he's definitely a lock almost at 9.8K on FanDuel, and his price is 9.4 on DK. It's just virtually impossible to get away from him. The matchup against Portland is too good. Portland does not play defense that well. They haven't really been playing defense well all season. They play also at a little bit of an up-tempo pace. I expect this game also to stay close to throughout the whole thing. So and Kyrie, and expect it to be like almost like a little shootout between Kyrie and actually Damian Lillard, who's a great tournament player as well.
Yeah. We go to Boston next. Kimball Walker's out, so he's been out for a couple games now. You know what to do with that one. Marcus Smart and the boys in the mix right there. Zach LaVine still out for Chicago. That opens the way for maybe a Kobe White. Vucevic has a big questionable tag, so maybe we'll ask SBK if he comes in what he thinks about that. But let's just suppose, because we kind of know what to expect with Zach LaVine now. We've seen it for a while now, but what if Vooch were to sit out tonight? Well, do you have any thoughts on who you might go to in that case?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit tough. Vooch out is going to make everything a little bit more difficult. you would then think the usage has to go around with Laurie Marketing, who I know you really can't trust in GPPs. I mean, in general, but he's a great GPP play at that point, especially because I think Giannis is going to sit, or he's been already ruled out, if I'm correct, because of the ankle injury that he suffered again last night, which is a little setback. So this game is going to be a good game to target just from just a perspective of value. He's gonna so if Vucevic is out, I think you got to definitely target Laurie Marketing for sure. He probably will be inserted into the starting lineup. I think you also have to look at I know Patrick Williams. He probably gonna have to pick up a little bit more, maybe a little bit more minutes, and probably will get a little bit more usage of his way, especially with Zach LaVine also being out too. So Kobe White, which is probably going to be the top play from Chicago. Those are the guys you definitely have to look at for sure. And obviously, like Garrett Temple, who I think he's back there too. He's someone that I think you're going to have to target too, just because he's going to probably play a lot of minutes. But these guys also might be filler. Thaddeus Young too will also probably enter the lineup too, uh, and be also a phenomenal play against Milwaukee's front court.
Yeah, I see we got Big Chief Will Priester in chat joining us here. Chief, welcome to the chat, brother. And we did a show earlier this week, and Chief was nailing his picks as usual. So please, by all means, Chief, get in here and help us out a little bit, man. Get in that chat and rile them up. We got another low key injury thing in Memphis here. Grayson Allen is out tonight. Jaren Jackson Jr. is out. Triple J's been out, but he came back for a while. Grayson Allen's an interesting one because he's playing about 28 minutes a game in April. So this whole month they've been grinding him out, and now he's out tonight. I think that kind of flies under the radar. Nobody's really looking at it, but boy, that could open up some things for some guys. Specifically, I'm seeing a pretty good projection for Kyle Anderson tonight. And man, I don't like playing Kyle Anderson, but things are working in his favor. Is anybody that stands out for Memphis with those injuries?
Yeah, definitely Kyle Anderson for sure. But one tournament pivot that you can look at, since they're gonna still be a little bit short, just gonna probably will take up a lot of minutes, is Desmond Bain. I like looking at him in tournaments for sure at 3,500 on FanDuel. That's a great play. He should, and he's gonna. I think he's gonna get probably. We got him at 25 minutes. I think he probably could get to 30 minutes, and I could think his production could probably be around 30 fantasy points probably tonight against Orlando, who has been playing a lot of who've been playing really competitive lately, ever since that trade, which has been surprising. But also might open up the door for D'Anthony Melton too. So those are my two tournament picks. I would lean more towards as far as secondary options. Primary would be like you said, Kyle Anderson for sure, John Morant. Those are obviously great plays in general. And Desmond Bain. I mean not Desmond Bain, sorry, and Dylan Brooks as well. You could even take a shot on Jonas Valanciunas, depending on um, how you want to go at center tonight. But to me, center is a position that can get funky because you have some phenomenal plays that are probably going to be a little bit lesser owned that you might want to get to. Honestly,
Yeah, all right. That's a good point. Let's talk about that in just a little bit. Let's go on now. Milwaukee. Giannis is more. I mean, Giannis. He's not playing. I don't know if he's been officially ruled out, but whew, talk about putting an early end to your night, man. When you got him and he goes out there for 1 minute and then he's gone. They're just not in any rush to play a guy like this right now. So I doubt he plays, which is going to open things up and just digging in. Like this time last year when Giannis is out, you were going to fire in Middleton. It was all about Chris Middleton. This year, well, he's been supplanted by Drew Holiday, who is gets a boost in points. He jumps up about 3 points a game. He gets more assists with Giannis out of the. This is not off the court. This is out of the lineup. I think Giannis has missed like 7 games this year or something like that. Yeah, Drew Holiday steps up. He had a big game last night without Giannis in there, so I think it's Drew. But what do you say, Drew, Giannis,
yeah,
Portis?
all three of them. Those are like well, with Giannis being out, definitely Drew, Portis, and Middleton. Those are the only three guys I could target from them. You can even, I mean, it's an 8 game slate, so it's going to be a lot. Shooting guard's going to be a little bit loaded, but you can even take some shots on Dante DiVincenzo. It's not out of his realm to put up a 30-35 spot in this matchup against Chicago. The game should still be close depending on if Vucevic is out and also how Drew Holiday plays. Because to me, from what we've seen so far this year, is if Drew Holiday is playing exceptionally well, they usually win and blow them out. If Middleton is playing well, it seems like the games is always a close game and always come down to the wire when Giannis has been out. So I would pretty much try to target that game a lot and target those three guys from Milwaukee, and even like I said, throw some shots at Dante DiVincenzo in GPPs.
Sounds good. We'll go to Sacramento now, where Harrison Barnes and De'Aaron Fox are going to be out again, and we've seen this now for a couple of games. And everybody obviously wants to jump on Tyrese Halliburton, rightfully so. He's been really good and all that good stuff. But man, I tell you what, one guy who's kind of, I don't know if he's flying under the radar, but he's never flying under my radar. That's Buddy Hyde, man. Big Buddy Hyde is he's the man out there. So he gets his matchup with the Lakers, and it's kind of a perceived tough defensive matchup, but they're not as good as they were last year on defense. They're dealing with some injuries, so it's not as bad. He's already played them a couple times this year, done well against them. Played them even when they were really good last year. He put up some nice games, like 3 or 4 nice games against them last year. So I'm not worried about the matchup. Man, I like me some Buddy Hyde tonight. Elevated price tag should drive everybody away. What do you think about the Sacramento side here? Or do you even like Buddy Hyde?
I like Buddy. I like Buddy tonight. Not as much those probably you do tonight, Chop. But it's just I'm looking at this lineup and I want to know how many minutes Marvin Bagley's going to play. That's someone that concerns me a lot. Because with everyone being out, Marvin Bagley probably might jump back into the starting lineup. And if that happens, that's going to take away some of the usage, which I'm a little bit afraid of, even though Buddy is a hit or miss and a great GPP play, because if he's on, he's going to be hitting a lot of the shots. And also LeBron coming back, I don't know how many minutes he's going to play, and I don't know if that's going to affect Buddy a lot, but that could be a little bit of a factor too, and maybe ramping up the Lakers to play a little bit more better on a defensive end. But I would definitely love to play him in tournaments. Tyrese Halliburton, who's been phenomenal this year. He's still a good player. He's going to probably play a boatload of minutes. So, but I would just also, like I said, pay attention to the rotations, get some exposure to this team, but probably not a whole bunch because I want to see how they react with Marvin Bagley being back in, and Fox being out, and Barnes.
Fair enough. We got the next one on the board. I see somebody somebody put a little reminder in chat for me yesterday. 4K mentioned Kevin Porter dropping a 50 spot yesterday. I feel good, man. As a Rockets fan, I feel good. 50 points on 26 shot attempts, 11 dimes. You throw him in with Christian Wood. I'm feeling good. If we can get this, if we can win the lottery, man. If we can win the lottery, bring in a good player. I feel good about my Houston squad, but at least there's something to the year I can take away from it. Next team on the board, San Antonio are going to be missing Derek White. Typically, that's been DeJounte Murray doing real well. It's surprising. This guy has a ton of upside. I was looking it up today. He's got like 6 games this year, 50 or more FanDuel, DraftKings points. He's got some massive, massive upside when he hits, and he likes to hit when Derek White is out. He even put up 50 last game against a real tough Miami. So watch out for DeJounte Murray. And then the last big injury team tonight is Utah, again without Mitchell and Conley. We don't know if there's some other guys too that are questionable in that lineup. Again, it's another one of those teams. They kind of need to win to keep that first place in the West and all those good things. So whoever's playing is going to play all out. It's just a matter of who's going to be playing for them tonight. So with those guys out, if nobody else were to be out, last game we were on Clarkston. He kind of disappointed. Maybe we go back there. I love Gobert, and I can talk about Gobert a little bit more later on, but Gobert's in the mix. Jingles, Bojan, all in the mix. So who's your favorite Utah guy with those injuries?
My favorite Utah guy in this matchup particularly is going to probably be Bojan Bogdanovic. I just think that he's going to get a lot of the usage, and especially with now we have with Clarkson disappointing last game. I think if he's going to be one, I'm wondering how they're going to play it. And then with Royce being also out, that's not really a lot of usage being taken away, but that's still going to change things a little bit defensively. And this game should stay close, and they're going to need Bojan, to me, in his scoring to keep this game close against Phoenix, because especially like you said, for the number 1 seed, and Phoenix is right on their tail for that too. So I love this game just from a competitive standpoint. I'm going to definitely have some exposure to Bojan and Joe. That's going to be my secondary play. And maybe a little Jordan Clarkson, but Bojan and Joe are my two favorite top of the place. And then, like you said, Rudy Gobert going against DeAndre Ayton, who's not really known for his defensive prowess on the court. So those are my three main guys from that team, more so.
Fair enough. Sounds good. Let's we're still not with SBK yet. He still hasn't woken up yet, so we're kind of chilling on that aspect. If you have any questions for him and he does get here, fire him off in chat. If it says specifically for SBK before, I will ask him while he's here. So you got that going for you. And just fire up any question you want in I don't know, about 15, 20 minutes. We'll get to all the questions and we'll answer everything you got to take you into this Friday night. So with all that being said, while we wait for SBK, let's talk about building lineups now. Let's talk about getting into the nitty gritty, man. Those were the injuries, but let's get into it now. Let's talk about when you start to build your lineup. Typically, if there's injuries, there's a good, sometimes there's a great value play. Sometimes there's a stud out there that you just got to have in there. Is there anybody who's basically the first guy you're identifying in your lineup tonight that you say that's the guy? Or if you're running like 150, who's the guy you're clicking 60% next to or something like? Who's that guy tonight for you?
That guy for me tonight, it's probably gonna either, I'm still deciding honestly. It's gonna either be Kyrie or Drew Holiday, or Damian Lillard. Those are my three top options I'm looking at because I think you have to pay up a point guard today. I even love taking some shots at Russell Westbrook, who just put up a 60 burger. I think last time he played Cleveland, but the prices are so cheap on those guys, it just makes it hard, and especially Drew being at 73. I'm tempted to just lock him in at 7,300 on FanDuel. It's just too good of a price to pass up. And especially against the matchup against Chicago. And like I said, if normally when Milwaukee's winning, they're typically blowing them out behind Drew Holiday and how he's been playing. So he's someone I would probably say, if I had to put a ranking on it, I would say Drew Holiday one, and then I would say Kyrie 2. Actually, no, Drew Holiday 1, Lillard 2, Kyrie 3.
Awesome. All right. We're going to put a pause on that real quick, and we're going to get to SBK and ask him some questions for tonight. So glad he could join us. SBK, if you're out there, please let us know, man. Are you there? Are you here? Do we got you?
I'm here.
Well, you made us sweat, man.
Yeah, listen. This has been a whirlwind of a day so far. I'm honestly surprised I'm even on. So I'm happy to be on talking to you guys.
Hey, man, we appreciate it. We know you're grinding it out, but you know what? Just for you, let me whip out this calculator real quick, man. Whip out this calculator, man. My man, you got 16 days left. Just 16 days of this left, man, and
wow.
then you're good. 16. And like you factor in the weekends and whatever vacation days you get. It's like nothing. It's like 3 days for you, man. It's nothing. You're almost there, but we have some questions for you for tonight. We won't keep you that long, but I'm going to start off in Brooklyn, where we know two of the big three are out, and one of them, Kyrie, is going to play. And we got a question in chat about the Brooklyn situation tonight. And my question was also in a similar vein, which was, we know what Kyrie's going to do, but there's usually more than one guy who does it for a team. So who's Kyrie's wingman tonight? Who's going to help him score tonight?
So in terms of the ancillary options there, I'm sure people probably realize now that Elise Johnson scored like 1 million fantasy points in 32 minutes last night. 56.25 DraftKings points in 32 minutes. I don't know what really to expect from him. We are actually projecting DeAndre Jordan to start, who was not part of the rotation yesterday. A lot of that is to match up with Nurkic. Portland generally plays with like a big, back to the basket type of center. So we have Jordan in there, which I think kind of muddies the front court a little bit. I do think Jeff Green's one option that kind of isn't really impacted too much as a result of what they do with that center spot. I think he's probably still kind of locked in for 32-ish minutes, a handful of shot attempts, especially with no Durant. Landry Shamet's another guy that I like. I kind of like him a little bit better. I feel like when Durant is the only guy rather than Kyrie, just given that I feel like when they kind of run offense through Durant out of the post, those kind of guys that kind of sit in the corner, more likely to get open looks there than they might be in this situation. But I still do think Shamet's still a dead-eyed shooter. Not going to give you a whole lot in other categories, which is a little bit rough. And I am still a fan of Elise Johnson. We have him projected for 22 minutes. The fantasy point per minute rate is generally there with him. We're also projecting to be pretty popular. It's 38% pwned on DraftKings. But he's 3K. So I think he's going to be how he does is going to determine a lot on the slate. And I'm definitely going to have some exposure at minimum price.
Yeah, well, let's go to Memphis now, where I talked about it in the injury report. Under the radar, Grayson Allen getting a lot of minutes this month, and he's out, and Triple J's out. So, I think people want to look at Kyle Anderson as the guy, but who could be another beneficiary with those guys out?
So I do like the Kyle Anderson call. With that, like when Jaren Jackson was kind of missing time, especially when Clark was out as well, he was playing minutes in like the low 30s. He has not played more than 26 minutes in his last 5. So I think that alone might kind of help depress his ownership a little bit. And I do think that he tops his, I think he plays 20, 29 minutes in the spot, assuming it stays close. So I do like him as a tournament play. I also have some interest in DeAnthony Melton, especially with no Grayson Allen. He's played at least 20 minutes in all 3 of his last 4 games. And while he hasn't really done a whole lot from a DFS perspective, Melton is a guy who has like pretty solid per minute upside when things are going right. I do think Brandon Clark at 3.8K does have some appeal as well. And we have him projected for 24 minutes. But the one guy on this side that I really like is Jonas Valanciunas. I think he's going to be by far the heaviest I am on any of the Memphis players. He's also kind of been down a little bit in his last 2, but when he gets the run and against this front court, I could see him having a very strong outing here. So I think he's kind of my favorite on the Memphis side.
Okay, I got another situation I want to talk about, but before I do, I want to throw it over to Dre, see if he has any questions.
Well, the only question I had was really about Alize Johnson, but I think you addressed it. I'm just concerned more so with, are you going to pretty much, how are you going to handle the projections, I guess, when you get a starting lineup? Are you going to, if he's not in there, are you going to project him for a little bit less? Because I know that's the iffy thing with him from looking at his game log. That's the most minutes he's played, I think, since being with the Nets. And before that, it was 5, 6, 10, 2, 12, 9, 5, and then 19.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the starting lineup will determine somewhat with him. I think if we get confirmation that Jordan's the starter at center and that Johnson's coming off the bench, I imagine we may come down to probably between 18 and 20. But this is still a back-to-back for them. And while Blake didn't play much last night, he's not generally a guy I would think that they're going to push hard on a back-to-back. So he's another, that is another kind of a reason why we have Johnson where we do. But we still have Blake at 24 minutes, which is pretty much twice, what he played last night. So yeah, I do think things will change when the starting lineup comes out. So if you're kind of considering Johnson, you'll probably want to double check where we are, after we get confirmation there. Hopefully we get a lineup before lock, but this is an 8:00 Eastern time start, so I'm not sure that happens. So yeah, in terms of pivoting for late swap, that's, this game is not a bad place to kind of leave some options open after 7 Eastern.
Okay.
All right, SBK, I got a question. I like later on. I'm going to go over a guy I really like, but Morning with Blues brings up something I wasn't even thinking about. He said last game Rudy Gobert got pulled 6 minutes into the first quarter, way before it was a 50-point game, but he got pulled 6 minutes into the first quarter. Is that normal in the rotation, or was that really just specifically trying to limit minutes? Maybe even limit minutes, knowing that it's going to be a blowout at some point. Do you read anything into that?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, they won that game by 50 points. He still played about 24 minutes. So I imagine if that one was kind of even somewhat competitive in the second half, he creeps up toward his normal allotment. I don't know off the top of my head what Rudy Gobert's substitution pattern is like in the first quarter. But yeah, I would imagine it's not something I would be super concerned about in terms of rostering him. But just kind of as another thing, I think Gobert's projecting pretty well in this spot, but I don't think he really gets a huge, uptick with no Mitchell and Conley. This is not kind of the type of player he is. And this is kind of a slow-paced matchup. I don't hate it for him, but he's not a guy that I'm itching to roster by any means.
Okay, well, that leads me to this. Do you have any props for us? Any player props for us tonight? We nailed Michael Porter Jr. last show. All right, we nailed it, but I need to know if you have any more tonight.
I don't think I do off the top of my head. I actually did play that Porter prop again last night. It was down to 22.5, and I guess I understood kind of why the total was lower in that Toronto game. But he still chucked the ball up 21 times. He creeped over, ended up 23 points. So that was I hope people tailed us on that the other night, and hopefully people kind of played it back again last night.
I got one for you then. I got one. If you don't have one, I'm gonna put my hat in the ring, and I got one for you, man. Rudy Gobert, I can get 12.5 rebounds on, according to scores and odds, I can get over 12.5 rebounds on points bet. Oh, Rudy Gobert over 12.5 rebounds. The last 3 games against Aiden, 18, 14, 18 rebounds. He's a machine against Aiden. He's a machine anyway. According to his rates, if he just played 29 minutes tonight, he'd hit that 12.5 rebound prop. I got to think against Phoenix, home court advantage on the line, they're going to play him more than 29 minutes. I'm thinking he's going to get maybe the north side of 35 minutes tonight. I like the Rudy Gobert rebound prop, especially in a game where the defenses are good enough to force some missed shot attempts. What do you think about that one, man?
I don't mind it. I think you look at Ayton's like rebounding totals, and people probably assume like, oh, he's a number 1 pick, a decent defensive center. He's really not a great rebounder, like in terms of, especially you match up with a guy like Gobert or somebody like Drummond. Like he's going to get eaten alive. There's times when the Suns even will go away from him to go to like Dario Saric. I've seen that a handful of times this year when he's just kind of not rebounding well, and Saric just kind of a little bit wider, just better using his body. So yeah, I think I'm going to tail it. I mean, you nailed it with the Michael Porter thing. Ended up playing that 2 nights in a row and won. So I'm following you on this one, Chop. All
right, let's do it. And as always, we appreciate you coming by, man. Good luck tonight, and we'll see you next time.
Yep, have a good weekend, fellas.
Yes, sir. All right, back to the grind here of these players. We were talking about the first guys in. I think we're on the same. Wavelength here. Kyrie, like one of the first guys in there. Drew Holiday, one of the first guys in, and so I think we're on there. But what about if we've got value plays, we need to save money somewhere? Who's some of your favorite value plays tonight?
Some of my value plays. I'm struggling with Alize Johnson a little bit.
I would like, what? Well, we'll jump in there with you. I think I'm with you after listening to what he said. What SBK said about DeAndre Jordan maybe coming in, getting the start. Maybe he's the better matchup tonight. And if everybody's going to load up on Johnson after the big game, even though he's cheap, still in tournaments, even a cheap guy who doesn't do well can still sink you, man. I think I might be with you here.
Yeah, that's someone that I'm probably going to be under the field on him, honestly, just off of thinking about it now, and how it is, even though he could burn me and be in a phenomenal play. But I just don't, it's hard to trust it with those minutes and after thinking into that a little bit more. But I like his value plays. I definitely like Rui Hachimura at 44.1K on Fanduel against Cleveland. His price on DraftKings is 5.1K, so it's a little bit higher there, but he's a phenomenal Fanduel play. Also, we mentioned it before, DeAnthony Melton. I love his price too at 4.3 on FanDuel, and his price on DraftKings at 3.9K, so he's even more popular over there too. And one last person who I really am interested in playing a lot of is seeing is Brandon Clark. Those are the Memphis. Memphis is going to really open up a lot tonight, I think, with value, but also the matchup against Orlando is a good matchup too. He's a great GPP play. I just want to see the minutes. The minutes are just concerning a little bit, but even if he plays 22 to 25 minutes, I think he can still have a big game against Orlando with the front court that's not really that big, and he's athletic enough to do a lot of good things.
Yeah. All right. So I'm kind of with you on those, and I think the Melton is really interesting. First time SBK said his name, the light bulb went off. All right, that could be the guy. Not Kyle Anderson. Another guy on the same team that could be there. We've seen it from him before. Brandon Clark with Triple J out again. Brandon Clark's had some good games before, so he could be the guy. Shamat out there, and somebody's got to step up and help Kyrie. If we expect it to be a competitive game, there's no defense in this game from either team. Somebody's got to step up. Dwayne Bacon's been doing well out there in Orlando. Another guy who just got there via trade. He's starting to put up some numbers now. Gary Harris getting settled into his new home. That's 32 or more minutes the last 3 games. A ton of shot attempts now. Like he just didn't get that much usage out there in Denver. You're not going to do it with Murray and Jokic and those guys, but he's getting some usage out there now. He's 16 shot attempts that last game. It goes double figures in the last 3 games. So Gary Harris, super cheap, could be a good value play. All right, let's talk about if we got all this money to spend. If you were to spend money and get studs in your lineup, what kind of studs are you looking at tonight? Like who's the good spend ups?
Besides the main ones we talk about with Kyrie, I love trying to get to Russell Westbrook. Like I don't think he said we got him at 21% owned. I wonder if that truly how much owning is going to be with Kyrie and Drew Holiday there at the point guard position, especially on FanDuel. So he makes it to me a great tournament play, especially on FanDuel and DraftKings as a spend up option. Joel Embiid, well, hopefully this game stays close and Trae Young plays, but if not, then if Trae Young's not in the lineup, I probably wouldn't play Embiid. But if he is in the lineup, I would play Embiid. I hope this game stays close and competitive. One person too, whose minutes have been there, and I know he's not projecting. Well, he's projecting pretty well, but not as well point per dollar play is Anthony Davis. I think he's a phenomenal play against Sacramento, especially if LeBron comes back, because that's just going to feed him nothing but assists and not LeBron's going to just feed him the ball down low and just I look for Anthony Davis to probably have a monster game here, regardless whether LeBron is back or not. But especially if LeBron's back, those are like my three top guys I'm targeting in GPPs and looking for the upside in those games in those matchups too.
Yeah, you took the Anthony Davis. I was absolutely going to mention him. I think,
Mm-hmm.
man, as I said before the last game, that he's due to come up, and he's inching his way there. 45 DraftKings points last game, and the thing about it is number one, Sacramento is atrocious on defense right now. God, they just gave up 150 points in a game.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing about Davis is he's not going to go over 30, 31, 32 minutes, but they're still getting him into game shape. He's not going to go under even in a blowout. He's going to get his 30 minutes against this defense. This has a big game written all over it, and his price tag is down. I like that one. I like that call. So we're going to do some questions here in a minute, guys. So if you got any questions, we're going to answer a bunch of them at the end of the show. The more questions, the better it's going to go. So that's coming up in just a minute. So get them in, please. Get all the questions in. And then I guess before we get to the questions, I just want to talk about GPPs now. We talked about cash game plays. Some of these guys are cash game plays. Drew Holidays, the Kyries will be littered all over the cash games, and the value plays will be all over the cash games. Let's talk about GPPs real quick. Give me a couple GPP only options, like guys I wouldn't put in cash games, but man, for GPPs, I'm going to be on them.
One person who I love, and the public doesn't seem to love him, and it's in a good matchup game. And I think as long as Sexton's out, Darius Garland, you have to just make sure he's out, but you have to load up on him. In my opinion, he in that match against Washington, like you said, they're playing better defensively lately. But that matchup is still going to be competitive and still going to be good. And Russell is not the same defender that he once was back in the day. So I still love targeting Darius Garland in that matchup. Another person who I like coming back into the lineup is Marcus Smart. Especially with Kemba being out against San Antonio, that could be a blowout. I understand that, but the way Boston's been playing this year, I don't think so. So I definitely love targeting Marcus Smart in there. And I'm looking at this now, even though we mentioned DeAnthony Melton, Dylan Brooks at 4.8K is a little that we're 4.8 ownership on FanDuel is low. He's a great GPP play, in my opinion. Sorry, I'm just giving you position by position just to make it a little easier. The guy also, Buddy Hield, 7.3K. 7.7% owned, 7K on FanDuel. He's gonna go overlooked in GPPs just because you got Joe Ingles that's a little bit cheaper, and so you got Kyle Anderson and Bogdanovich, who's everyone going to be on, which is not a bad play. And Chris Middleton above. So those are definitely plays I like. And then that's the power forward position. I definitely where is the guy? I like being I was talking about Brandon Clark before. He's someone I definitely think is not going to be a cash game play. He's definitely a GPP play. And Anthony Davis, if he's going to be 7% owned, I'm going to be well over the field and double the field on that. He might be my top GPP play of the night because, like you said, he's due for a big game and it's going to happen sooner than later. And then as far as center wise, we mentioned Valanciunas, who's going to be. I think his ownership is a little higher than what he's going to be. Personally, I think he's going to be coming a little bit on their own. So he's someone I think is going to be stand out a lot. And Gobert, as you said too, you gave phenomenal stats. You guys actually got me on Gobert more now too, against Ayton. I think everyone's just going to try to pay up, especially if Vooch is in. Everyone will flock to Vooch against Milwaukee. Therefore, that will leave less ownership for, to me, Rudy Gobert and Valanciunas. And first of all, and Jared Allen too. Sorry to touch on this one too, but he just had a monster game against Washington. Monster game. And he's only 5% owned. I don't get that. I don't understand that. I will go right back to the matchup. Even though the same bodies are still in, he's still playing a lot of minutes. He can definitely have a smash spot again against this team. And
yeah, I like a lot of those, and I'll just top that off by saying I'll just give you a game, guys. A game I kind of think is interesting tonight. Really interesting is the Utah Phoenix. Nobody's going to be on this game. It feels like a defensive struggle with these teams because they're ranked so high defense. They both got very efficient offenses too. Sometimes that's a wash right there. Defense, it don't matter. So I like this game. Vegas is telling us it's only about a 4-point spread. So tight game. Nobody should blow each other out. Fair number of points, 220. That's a good number. And for Utah, you've got a condensed rotation now. So you can play cheaper guys. You can play Gobert or Jordan Clarkson, Bogdanovich, we've talked about, and, Royce O'Neal, if he's healthy. If not, that's even more minutes for these other guys, Joe Ingles. And on the flip side, you don't have to run it back with a ton of guys, but Chris Paul can get it done no matter who the matchup is. Chris Paul is always a good run back. He's fairly 7,800 on DraftKings is a good price for him. Mikal Bridges, a good player. So there's options here to stack this game, and it could be the best game on the night, both in real life and in fantasy. You just never know. So with that being said, it's time now to bring in Devin, the producer, who's got some questions for us all right. Before Devin comes in, before Devin's going to come in, before he jumps in, I just want to say what's up to Bert. I see Bert Stevens in chat. I met Bert at ShopRite. So, Bert, how you doing, man? And now it's time for Devin to come on in.
I was going to ask if you saw Bert was saying hi to you there, Chop.
Oh, I see everything in chat. Bert's good people. So, yeah, Bert, appreciate that, man.
Oh, the ShopRite regular. So
you got to get the fresh produce, man.
We got some QQs saved. Not a ton, but we'll get started here. Do you guys want to do back and forth here? We'll hop one at a time.
Yeah, that's fine.
That sounds great, man.
All right, let's start with Chop. Let's do ZZTV wants to know DK. Oh, this is I don't know why I got this one. This was a baseball question. We'll get to that one in a little bit, ZZ. You guys got baseball thoughts?
I haven't looked at the slate yet.
Not looked at it? All right. I won't feed it to you there. And Chop, let's go to this one. K-Mac asks, FanDuel tournament, if LBJ plays, could you rank your top 3 Lakers and Kings for tonight?
Wow. All right. If LBJ plays, that's interesting. Let me pull it. I guess does he want the combination package? Because all 3 of them together, like from the same. I would say I think I'm in the same boat as Dre. Anthony Davis is my number one. He's one of my favorite players on the board tonight, regardless. So Anthony Davis, I can't get away from Buddy Hield in this game. I think low ownership in GPPs, and he's just really solid with these guys out. I would say in this particular matchup, I can see a 15-20 game out of Andre Drummond. So, and LeBron James isn't going to come back and take a ton of shots. That's not who he is. But man, if he comes back, like Dre said, this helps everybody, and this will really help Andre Drummond. He'll feed Andre Drummond some great pick and rolls and some great dunk opportunities. So I go Davis, Hield, and Andre Drummond from that game.
All right, let's go to Andre. Dowens wants to know, do you have any love for Vucevic, Markkanen, and White, given how much Milwaukee gives up threes?
I definitely have love for Vooch and Markkanen. I mean, Vooch and White. Markkanen, I am not sure yet. I want to see the starting lineup and find out because I think we said Vooch was questionable. So if he is indeed questionable and not playing, then I will like Markkanen. But as of right now, no.
All right, smash that like button if we get your question. Unicorn for Chop. FanDuel, what about Allen versus Washington? I think we were sweet talking Allen for a little while there.
I love Allen. You're on FanDuel, but you can only take one center, so that's what makes it tough. But and I do have love for Gobert, but Jared Allen just dollar for dollar is right up there. Maybe on FanDuel the number 1 center for me tonight.
All right, let's stick with FanDuel. Go over to Andre. What's your lock of the day for Billups?
Lock of the day is gonna be Drew Holiday.
Nice. Keelan wants to know, always going for those express slates, 7:30 games. That's Cleveland versus Washington and Spurs versus Celtics. Who are your top value plays and stars from that? Chop. That was Cavs, Washington versus Spurs, Celtics.
Okay, for that particular slate, the value plays, like Hachimura, even Evan Fournier, I could get behind Jacob Pertl if you want. Those are the cheap guys.
I think we dropped a Garland earlier too.
Garland, yeah. I mean, and if you're in the middle, like on that particular slate, maybe I fade Tatum and fade Westbrook. I know they're big time players, but there's a lot of mid range. Like DeJounte Murray's capable of dropping 50 tonight, as is Garland, like you guys said. So I think yeah, let's live in the mid range and I don't want to go too cheap. I guess Hachimura is at 5,100 on DraftKings is the cheapest guy on that 2-game slate I would look at.
And while we're on Hachimura, our buddy O wanted to know, and we'll get this one from Andre. I know you talked about liking Rui. Does he have 40-point upside versus Cleveland tonight in your mind?
He definitely does, but that's going to be hard for him to achieve. Honestly, that's like a ceiling game from him, in my opinion. So I wouldn't count on it. Honestly, I would count on him to probably hopefully like 27 to maybe 32 fantasy points, hopefully. But that's really about it in this match against Cleveland.
All right, I see Chomp in there dropping favorite stacks or chat. Is that right? I didn't know if you were lurking in chat there.
I'm not lurking. Bert's asking me for my favorite MLB stacks, but I haven't looked at MLB yet. So.
Got to pull up the bat real quick. Morning Wood wants to know. Chomp, we'll get this one. DK tournament lock and top value play.
Top value play
for DK.
All right, let me pull up my guys right here.
You guys were talking about fading Johnson, perhaps.
Oh man, yeah, that's a tough one for me.
Got to wait for the lineup.
I mean, okay, let's put it like this: if he's talking about cash games, yeah, okay, 3K minimum, Alize Johnson, just because the field's going to have him too, a lot in cash games, so I can get behind that. Otherwise, 3,900, Shamat, man, he's been breathing fire from the 3-point line, and he's going to be theoretically the second guy go-to option in his offense tonight if all those other guys are out. So, I mean, maybe Shamet.
We've been talking about him a lot lately, it seems like. Unicorn, Lillard at 8K. Andre, what are your thoughts?
Yes. just play. I don't mind it at all. Lillard at 8K, he's too cheap. We know his upsides. Don't even think twice. You can block him into a lineup. I love him as a tournament play too.
All right, don't forget to hit that like button if we get your question. Still got plenty of time, so we'll go to chat, see if anybody's loaded up some more questions. Our buddy O wants to know, can DeAndre Jordan smash this slate if he's a starter tonight? Sort of in the same vein as that Johnson question.
Man, I'll tell you what. I'm not going to play DeAndre Jordan, I don't think, but if you want to talk about a leverage play of all leverage plays, with everybody else on Alize Johnson, and it would be like very fitting for DeAndre Jordan to come in, take a bunch of minutes, and put up like a 40-point game and leave the kid out to like with 10 DraftKings points. Like I could see it being a good leverage play, but personally, probably not on him tonight.
Now, we were talking about Blake Griffin on back-to-back. He's projected for 24 minutes. Is he going to be limited tonight?
See, I don't know though. That's what's concerning me because I was watching the game yesterday. He didn't play a lot. He definitely like they were talking about he's done early, and I'm just trying to figure out are they just managing his minutes to play more on the back to back because it is a better matchup for him theoretically against Portland. That's what makes it tricky for me with Alize Johnson, and it makes it hard for me to get behind. Because I don't know what Steve Nash is thinking and how they're doing their rotations and what they're running on back-to-backs. We've never seen this type of situation with them before. So this is what's throwing me off a little bit when it comes to liking Johnson more as much as if the field is liking him right now.
All right, let's move on to the next question. Keelan wants to know, ask Andre if he likes any guys from the Celtics-Spurs game on Fanduel for tournaments.
Yes, I do. Marcus Smart I like a lot. Jaylen Brown I definitely like a lot too because he's been playing phenomenal this year. And DeJounte Murray, those are like my top 3 guys. I don't mind getting to Tatum and DeMar as well, but those 3 guys are the 3 guys I'm going to target a lot from those games and try to have a lot more of exposure.
Any Peyton Pritchard for cheap?
No,
not going there.
This late. Point guard is too loaded tonight.
Morningwood wants to know, Chop, DK tournament, are you playing any Jeff Green? I think he made the 6-pack today.
I think he's interesting. Man, but you notice how we've already mentioned Alizé, DeAndre, Blake Griffin, and now Jeff Green, all kind of hovering around the same positions, same couple of positions, all vying for minutes. So if you have that many guys, maybe you actually don't have any guys worthy of fantasy.
All right. Any lock bets or game props for the night for our buddy Andrew? We'll get both of your thoughts on this. Any game totals you like the over?
I mean, I think I commented in the expert survey today. I thought the under on the Phoenix-Utah game was a solid bet just because very efficient offenses, but very efficient defenses. And so I think it's going to be more of a playoff atmosphere, and that's going to be tough to get. But I like that Rudy Gobert rebounds prop, and that kind of goes hand in hand with that because you're missing a lot of shots. You're getting a bunch of extra rebound attempts. So those are the two I'm on.
I kind of like the over a little bit in the Washington-Cleveland game.
And I will just parrot Beer's pick for today. He had a bet on his 6-pack with the over Atlanta-Philadelphia 222. Let's see. I think we have caught up on the questions. We got David here in chat wants to know overall best center on FanDuel. If you guys want to go over some quick FanDuel center thoughts.
Who you got? Dre?
It's tough because I really like using leverage and thinking about going now heavy on Jared Allen with the ownership play. So to me, I might rank it Jared Allen's my number 1, followed by Valanciunas is number 2, Gobert number 3.
All right, and yeah, it's all of our questions. So you guys want to go over any game snacks that you're liking? I think we've touched on a good bit of them. Any of them that you haven't touched on?
You got Andrew brings up Andrew. did Ben Simmons even make one the other day? Because I think we were all on the under. We got a running prop here. Will Ben Simmons make a 3-pointer that night? And I don't think he's made one in a while.
But one since March 17th.
Yeah, it's I got to keep going under on the Ben. I got to keep going under on the Ben Simmons prop bets every day. It's just tough, man. But
since that successful 3-pointer, he has only attempted 2. And missed both.
Yeah, I'll say this much while we got a little time. I'm glad we got some time. The chat did me right on Wednesday when they said freeze the grapes, okay? Freezing the grapes overnight. Those were really exceptional. I like frozen blueberries. We get them in the big bag and from the freezer and they're frozen. And I like those. These have the same kind of feel to them, that frozen fruitiness, so I like that. And then I did the M&Ms too, and you got to let the M&Ms kind of sit for just a few seconds and kind of thaw out just a little bit to where they still got that hard texture, but you can bite into them. Very good. I'm looking forward to movie night tonight with my popcorn and M&M because they got the new flick on Amazon with Michael B. Jordan.
That was a good one.
You seen it?
Yeah, I saw it last night.
Oh, no spoilers, really my man. No spoilers. That's going to be movie night tonight. But I'm ready with my butter popcorn and my M&Ms, man. What's your go-to snack for movies, Dre?
I'm typically like it depends on my mood. Most times I'm Budget Crunch when I'm at the movie theaters with definitely you got to get popcorn. To me, if you're not eating popcorn in the movie theaters, then don't even go. You can't come with me.
Oh, for sure.
Because I love popcorn at the movie theaters, and then probably either getting a slushie. If not, then you just gotta have like a regular drink. But I love going to movies. I love films. I'm watching a lot of films and interested in that for sure.
I gotta say, the Amazon was not the favorite there, Chop, for your movie selections. I think there may have been one other source higher than Redbox on that list.
I think I've covered the Redbox thing, man. Since the old pandemic freaked me out, man. I've not been doing the Redbox thing. So
those touch screens, right?
The good thing. Okay, here's the thing, Devin. Just while we got one minute that we're gonna get out here, I'll leave it at this. It took the pandemic for Amazon Prime, Netflix, HBO Max especially to start dropping the movies early. Like they're supposed to be in the theater. We'll run them in the theater and we'll give them to you online. Like before that, they wouldn't come out online They were like months after Redbox. That's why I liked Redbox. They were coming out earlier on Red. Now we're caught up. So now I'm good with online. So that's my excuse for that one. But I see Dean in chat. When Dean shows up in chat, that means it's time to go, fellas. So it's guys, we appreciate you as a chat being interactive with us, tuning in. Good luck in all those GPPs. For Dre, for Devin, the producer, I'm Head Shopper, your host. We'll catch you next week. But for now, we're out of here.
Here back in Fantasy Bar. It's Friday night. We're talking NBA. I've got 5 of my favorite DFS plays for you. None of them over 8K on either FanDuel or DraftKings. A couple of my favorite mid-range and value plays. My favorite bet of the night for you. And, of course, my favorite overall play on the whole slate. Who is it? Belly up to the Fantasy Bar and find out. Welcome in, guys. Friday edition Beers Daily Fantasy Six-Pack. As we've been doing lately, we're switching gears from MLB, talking NBA hoops here on Friday night. What a better place to be than at the bar on a Friday. So thank you, as always, for hanging out and checking out the video. Now, a couple things. Before we get into the plays, guys, do me a favor. Click that thumbs up button. That tells us you're having a good time here in the Fantasy Bar. You're enjoying the videos. And as I always say, that's the tip jar here. So let's knock that out first. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, doing MLB, NBA videos. Want you to get notified when these videos are coming out, so subscribe to that channel. Also, sports betting, so much fun and getting legalized in a lot of states out there. Well, we have just the tool for you. Look down in the description of the video, scoresandodds.com/beer. Click that, get signed up, can pay by the month, the week, or the year. Great access to sports betting information, betting splits, different lines all across all the different books out there, analytics, premium picks, just a ton of stuff going on there. So go check it out today, scoresandodds.com/beer. All right, let's get into the plays here tonight. Looks like a fun slate of games on a Friday night. Let's start at point guard, shooting guard with Tyrese Halliburton of the Kings. So we know it's the time of the year, a lot of injuries, a lot of guys sitting out, and we have that here once again with the Kings. We've seen this scenario play out now a few times. We got no De'Aaron Fox, no Harrison Barnes for the Kings. When we run the numbers and utilizing our Court IQ tool, which you can find in our Rotogrinders premium suite of tools, just an invaluable tool in my opinion. So if you're missing out on it, go check it out today. But when you take these two off the floor, usage goes up over 9% here for Tyrese Halliburton. So an absolutely massive leap in usage as you'd expect. De'Aaron Fox does so much with the ball in his hands. Well, now Halliburton takes some of that onto his plate, and we've seen it in the results. Over 40 DraftKings points now in 2 of the last 3 games. So the price creeping up on him a little bit, still under 7K on FanDuel. I think that's great value at a tougher shooting guard position, and DraftKings don't hate that $7,400 price point either with that huge usage leap. Love this spot for Tyrese Halliburton tonight against the Lakers. All right, let's take a look at our next play. Nice value here in the mid-range with power forward center Jeff Green of the Nets. Now the Nets, we know, has been a rotating door of who's in, who's out. Durant expected to play tonight. Kyrie Irving, we're still keeping an eye on, but I still like Jeff Green. It's kind of taken that role as the third guy when they don't have James Harden. He's stepped in, playing a lot of minutes here, playing over Blake Griffin at this point. So 28 or more minutes in 8 of the last 9 games here for Jeff Green. So we know minutes are money. We want our guys on the floor. Checks that box. How about production? Well, been good there as well. 32 or more DraftKings points now in 4 of the last 6 games. So you do the simple math on that $4,800 price on DraftKings, really stands out as a tremendous value here. FanDuel, a little pricey at 6K. Still don't hate him over there, but this is more of a DraftKings-centric play at that price. And matchup, let's check another box here. Portland, about as bad as it gets. Versatile forwards like Jeff Green. And again, can find this information in our Rotogrinders Premium under our Court IQ and our lineup HQ. But defense versus archetype looks at a particular way a player plays. We know Jeff Green, one of them versatile forwards, can play a lot of different spots. Portland struggles against players like that. In fact, nobody struggles worse, giving up the most fantasy production there. So a lot of reasons we like Jeff Green here tonight, given those lineups against the Portland Trailblazers. All right, let's spend some money at the point guard position here with Darius Garland of the Cavs. So Colin Sexton still up in the air if he returns or not. I really don't care with the way Darius Garland's been playing. Obviously, if Sexton is out, that is a huge boom for Darius Garland, but the numbers don't jump up too high as far as usage goes with Sexton out. So if he returns, I don't think it hampers Garland a ton here, especially against the Wizards, and we'll get to that here in a second. But Garland been about as consistent as we could ask for. Averaging almost 43 DraftKings points a game over the last 10. Rarely falls under about 32 DraftKings points, and the upside to get you into the 50s. So kind of satisfies that cash game guy if you're looking to lock in somebody, get a solid floor. Also, the upside he's shown us, and the upside, like we mentioned with that matchup, Washington 5th most fantasy points allowed this season to the point guard position. So whether Sexton's in or not, do not care if he's out. Garland becomes a lock for me. If Sexton's back, Garland's still going to be a big part of my builds tonight against the Wiz. All right, let's go back to the mid-range here at small forward, power forward, Bojan Bogdanovic of the Jazz. So another injury situation we can capitalize on here with Utah. No Donovan Mitchell, as we know. Mike Conley going to sit again tonight. Even Royce O'Neal questionable here for the Jazz. So that one's something we want to keep an eye on. But either way, Bogdanovic, a guy I want to lock in my lineups. When we run the numbers in Court IQ, guess who leads the way with Conley and Mitchell off the floor? You guessed it, Bogdanovic. Nice 5% usage bump in those scenarios. And another guy playing consistent, 30 or more DraftKings points in 7 of his last 9 games. In fact, he's given us 37 or more in 3 of those games. So upside here as well. This one, the DraftKings price jumped up, and I don't hate it at 6,300, but FanDuel, an absolute lock and load, 5,300. A no-brainer for me over there. Cash games, tournaments. Love me some Bojan Bogdanovic tonight in this matchup with the Phoenix Suns. All right, moving right along. I promised you my favorite bet of the night as always. So we're going to go with a total here tonight. We're going to go the over 222 in the Atlanta-Philadelphia game. So we saw this game play out the other night. Atlanta really struggled to put points on the board. Philadelphia ran away with that game, but Atlanta looks like they're going to get some guys back. Bogdanovic expected to be back. We'll see if they get Trae Young back. He's a 50-50 proposition as of this recording, but I think they're going to have obviously more offense, and they're going to score way more than the 83 points they scored, or 87, whatever the hell it was the other night. So like that. So let's check that box off. That game, the total was 212.5 in that one. So Vegas is telling us we're expecting more points here. We're expecting Atlanta to get these guys back, to be a lot more aggressive offensively. So the total jump 10 points. So that's a sign that these guys should be coming back here, and we can expect a much more competitive game and a much more higher scoring game, because these two teams both in the top half of offensive efficiency. Atlanta, in fact, in the top 10 at number 9. Philadelphia playing very well right now. We've seen them put big points on the board here over the last couple games. They check in at 13th in offensive efficiency. So 2 offensive teams. I'm expecting Atlanta to bounce back. I'm expecting a closer competitive game. That could lead to more scoring here, but a lot of reasons. I like the over here in this game. My favorite bet of the night, over 222 with the Atlanta Hawks and the Philadelphia 76ers. All right, let's get back to the DFS plays. We only got one guy left for it. You know who that is, the Beast of the Night. But before we do that, we're going to continue our Beast of the Night contest. Absolutely free to play. All you have to do is get in the comment section right below the video and guess fantasy points on FanDuel for my favorite play of the night tonight. The closest guess is going to win themselves either a free 3-day pass to Rotogrinders Premium. Check all this stuff out. We've been talking about Lineup HQ, Court IQ, all of that good stuff. Or if you're already a subscriber and you know them great tools, then we're going to send you a free Rotogrinders t-shirt. So let's wrap up Friday night. Let's wrap this week up. My favorite play in the NBA tonight, you know him as the Beast of the Night. All right, Beast time. We're going to go to shooting guard, small forward, and we're going to roll with Chris Middleton of Milwaukee, tonight's Beast of the Night. So Giannis had to leave early. In fact, right in the beginning of that game, got injured against Houston. So I'm not expecting to see him in the lineup tonight. Now, obviously, if he comes back, that kind of changes things here, but I'm going to take a stance, say he sits, and if that's the scenario, I want Chris Middleton in almost every one of my lineups here tonight. So again, we're going to reference back to Court IQ. We take Giannis out of the lineup, and that shows us over a 6.5% usage leap for Chris Middleton. It also pumps out 1.26 fantasy points per minute. So a very nice number there at these prices, under 8K on both sides. And let's look at the matchup. We're good there as well. Chicago bottom 5 in that department against players like Chris Middleton. So again, a lot of reasons we like him. Let's make sure Giannis is out. If he's not, we'll make some adjustments, move some things around. But if he is, Chris Middleton easily becomes my favorite play on the slate tonight and tonight's beast of the night. All right, guys, that wraps up for Friday night in the Fantasy Bar. Any comments, questions, feedback, hit me up in that comment section right below the video. We talk anything you guys want to talk about down there. That is for you. Don't forget your guess for fantasy points on Fanduel for Chris Middleton for a shot at some free RG Premium or free Rotogrinders t-shirt. And lastly, guys, if you're sports betting without scoresandodds.com/beer, you're doing it wrong. Go check it out today. Again, special prices by the week, by the month, or the best deal by the year. Access to some tremendous information. Go in the comments below the video in the description. Click that link. Get signed up today, scoresandodds.com/beer. All right, that will do it for this week, guys. Thank you for hanging out, checking out the videos. I greatly appreciate it. For Rotogrinders.com, I am Beer saying salut. Best of luck here tonight, guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for checking out our videos. If you want more expert advice on DraftKings, FanDuel, or any other daily fantasy sports, make sure you check out the current videos playlist.
What is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 7904. If you want to get all technical, I mean, it's 5:17 on the East Coast, 2:17 on the West Coast, 4:17 Tennessee time, which of course that means it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, the CEO, the GM, the COO of the Bet and the Blitz. It's one Derek Carty. Carty, how's Friday treating you?
Friday's good. You know, got a little downtime in this morning, which is rare during baseball season, but that was nice. And you know, we got finally like a big slate. We don't have these little crappy, 5-game afternoon, 6-game night slate split stuff. Like we have a big slate for the first time, feels like in weeks.
Yeah, we're not messing around. It's a 14-gamer. We're here with you guys for the next 50 minutes or so. Of course, if you guys are tuning in for whatever reason for basketball, hit the over rewind button. Head Chopper and Andre, we're all over that. If you guys are premium members, Andy Means will be talking basketball later on, along with STO Cards. Kevin Roth will be there as well and talking about weather from a baseball perspective. Well, yeah, there's no basketball perspective weather as far as I know. I did just pull up the forecast page, and more than anything, as far as there's no real rain to be concerned with, but wind could be a factor tonight. That has not been updated just yet. Roth usually updates it around 5:30 or so, so I'm going to keep an eye on that. We'll go ahead and drop it in chat when it does come out. And then, of course, again, Roth gives you the most up-to-date update as far as weather on crunch time for the premium members. Hey, mention chat. What's up, chat? Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, ask us some questions. We're going to bring Devin. He'll speak on behalf of the chat. He's going to ask your questions regarding tonight's slate, broad questions, stacking questions, just general DFS lineup construction questions, or like, do you like this guy? Do you like that guy? Be specific as far as your questions. Tell us if it's for FanDuel, if it's for DraftKings, tournament, cash, yada, yada, yada. That helps us answer those questions, makes it easier. Cardi, it's a 14-gamer, but it feels so much smaller and it feels really straightforward. That's where I'm at as far as this slate. And of course, in tournaments and it's baseball and you can literally cue your inner blender and play anybody you want. But as far as like the good stuff, at least on paper, the good stuff, goofy things happen all the time. It's really obvious. I imagine you're kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah, like I saw, 14 games. Like finally, we're gonna get a slate with like some real edge, and it's so obvious like how to build stuff today. So it's it is what it is. At the very least, there are lots of viable ways to pivot off in GPPs, but it is pretty straightforward cash build tonight, I think.
Yeah, I think on DK, I think you're playing 2 of 3 guys. We're going to have that conversation. And, well, Cardi, 2 of 3 guys tonight. We're playing Bieber, Cole, And if we want to get a little bit more as far as our salary, on DK, the price for Haney just is weird. Why is he 6.8K on DK against the Mariners?
No idea.
That's what we're doing, right? We're playing 2 of those 3 guys.
You're playing 2 of those guys. It's Cole and Haney. Bieber's not even in the conversation for me. Like, I like Bieber. I think he's great. On any other slate, he'd be like, yes, you play him no matter what. Cole projects like 6 points higher. Like, it's just not close.
Well, okay, who projects higher from raw points as far as Bieber versus Haney?
Bieber, but only by like 2 points. So like, you're not playing Cole and Bieber. Like, you're definitely playing Haney.
Oh boy. Yeah. So I make 2 main lineups in cash on DK, and in my head, that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to chop. I'm going to have one with Heaney, one without. And, general rules, arms are generally more predictive than bats. Bieber, he has the ceiling of throwing 11, 12, 13 strikeouts. Heaney, I suppose, can throw 8 or 9 or 10, I guess. He's going to get the hook quicker, almost definitely. And, the chances of a 3 or 4K bat beating a 5K bat are greater than the chances of, and this is all general, of a 7K arm beating a 10K arm. That's sort of where my head's at as far as cash game. Tell me I'm wrong on that, because that's what you're saying. And I hear you. And I like Heaney, and he's a great dollar for dollar pitcher. I just love the idea of going double barrel, and DK makes it so easy for me tonight. So that's where my initial lean is. So it sounds like it's not for you, which I like. This will be a fun conversation.
Yeah. So I think that's really interesting. Like, if Haney wasn't on this slate, I think that would be a very viable approach, maybe even the optimal approach. But Haney projects for 24 points and he's 6.8K. Like, that's just insane. He's just a free square. He's a guy, he gives up fly balls, he gives up home runs, he can get blown up at any time. It's not like anything is guaranteed when we're talking about predicting a single day of MLB. But just from a pure probability standpoint, Haney is just, this is one of the best raw point projections we've seen for any pitcher all year. So I'm just not overthinking it. I'm taking the massive discount on Haney and I'm playing him. We have some of the better pitching weather of the day there. It's a good pitcher's park. It's a weak Seattle offense. It is a very strikeout prone Seattle offense. Haney is a high variance boom bust kind of pitcher, but when the raw value and the raw points are this high, it's just an easy call, I think.
I didn't realize Luis Robert's back today for the White Sox. I thought he'd be out once again. That does bolster their lineup to some degree. You like seeing Vaughn in there. Vaughn feels like a couple of Ks on layaway as far as Bieber. Let me pull up the matchup here. Seattle versus the Angels versus Seattle. Is the Seattle lineup bad today? Spoiler alert.
Seattle lineup is always pretty bad. Outside of Mitch Haniger, they really don't have a whole lot. Let's see.
He was a late scratch yesterday. Do we know if he's coming back today?
I don't know. It looks like he's projected in right now, but we don't have an official lineup for them yet. But the projected lineup is quite bad.
Haniger, France, Seager, Lewis, Moore, Haggerty, Torres, Margalejos, and Crawford. Yeah, it's pretty rough, I suppose. And then the Ks are pretty appealing there at the top as well. This season, Haney's been awesome. It's just a misprice by DK. 30 with 38%. 36.7% as far as Ks. Does walk a little bit, 8.9%, which isn't, terribly exciting. But yeah, and you can get a couple extra bats, and I love it in tournaments. I'm sure our ownership's reflecting that as well too. Do we care about the last we checked as far as the wind in New York for Garrett Cole? Is it the 30 miles an hour potential, the wind blowing out against Detroit? Detroit is just a horrific lineup, and I guess it doesn't matter what the wind's doing if you're not hitting the ball. And Garrett Cole is probably going to prevent the Tigers a good bit from not hitting the baseball. Do we care about that from a pitching perspective as far as the wind lurking in New York?
We definitely care about it, but it's not enough to take you off of Cole. Like, that goes into the bats projection, and 30 mile an hour is probably overstated. The bats feed, instead of 30 mile an hour to center, it has it 19 to right, which is still a lot of wind. But it is, it's 50% less wind than 30 miles an hour. So, and then, spoiler alert, you'll probably hear about it on Crunch Time, but I was talking to Meansy, who was talking to Roth, and Roth was saying that he thinks it's probably closer to like 20 to right as opposed to 30 to center. So just keep that in mind when you are looking at the automated weather page. But like, Cole is just so good, and he has such a long leash, and Detroit is so bad, and Detroit is so strikeout heavy. And now Higashioka is like the starting catcher, and he's a really good pitch framer, like way better than Sanchez is. So that's going to help him. And it's not particularly warm there. You know, it's a little chilly. So I really just think Cole is the guy. And again, I love Bieber. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Bieber. The weather for Bieber is awesome. It's cold. There's wind blowing in, but he's facing the stronger offense. And I just think it's Cole.
Yeah, fair enough. And the other part is it's 14 games and there's a lot of, so back in the day, last year, we would get a hitter that was like 2.5K on DK that looked like halfway decent. We would get excited and they would become chalk. Yeah. But tonight, and the way we've seen all the season so far, there's a bunch of hitters that are 2.5 or 3K. That makes it much easier. What's that?
I would love to see it go back to like, you get excited about seeing a 2.5K hitter because the pricing is actually sharper than it is right now. Like the pricing should be sharper than it is right now.
Which the point I'm making is it's so much easier to go double barrel and like the opportunity cost is less. So that's sort of the kind of the thought process there. And we'll talk about the hitters soon enough. And we'll kind of run through the guys that are cheap. And you're not giving up a ton, and you'll see like you can make a pretty reasonable lineup with only maybe like one or two holes, maybe just one, depending on how you like what you're making there, and get the best arms out there. But that's the clear route as far it's baseball. Goofy things happen. I guess we have to acknowledge the presence of Yu Darvish. Like for sure, he's got the capability of beating both Bieber and Cole from a raw points perspective. Are we excited about Darvish as a pivot?
As a pivot in GPPs, sure. He's just nowhere near the cash game conversation. Playing Darvish is straight up horrible. You can make a case for Bieber. You can't make a case for anyone outside of Cole, Bieber, and Haney for cash, though. In GPPs, yeah, Darvish is great. The matchup is okay. There's lots of appealing pivots today.
Yeah, let's run them down because I think Peralta is another interesting pivot. I know we don't want to pick up the Dodgers, but for what it's worth, their lineup is weaker than it normally is. No bets. And Peralta is a guy when he's on, you catch him on the right night, he can rack up double-digit Ks as well too.
Oh yeah.
So how about the Peralta as a potential and this is all tournament stuff now as far as pitchers. We agree. It's Bieber, Cole, Heaney. That's the pool that we're picking from basically from a cash game perspective. As far as the pivots, where is Peralta? Is he one of your favorite pivots away if you're going to power rank him?
Yeah, absolutely. He, again, on a different slate, like this is a guy who would be massive chalk. He projects for over 20 points and 5% ownership. So that's a great, that's a great GPP guy. There's, variance with him. It's the Dodgers. He can get blown up. Like obviously he's not as established as some of these other pitchers, but he's the kind of guy who has the potential to go out and strike out 10 guys every single game. So Peralta, I think, is a great GPP pivot.
I'm looking to see. I guess we don't have a ton of umpire data just yet with all the new series starting tonight.
Yeah, not much.
That's unfortunate. Hopefully, it seems like that comes in really late, right? Or if not at all, like they basically don't let you know what's happening more or less till the game starts.
Yeah, a couple of years ago we were getting them, 2 hours before game time, and now it's like a minute before first pitch, and that's just not very useful.
I mean, I wonder if that's like gambling reasons. I have no idea why that is. They're not releasing stuff like that, but I'm sure I would imagine gamblers are aware that the umpire can influence the game for better or for worse from a pitching perspective, from a hitting perspective. Let's kind of work our way down. Is anybody else? I mean, McCullers is fine, but he always has that one inning where he labors. He never seems to go beyond. You're begging for 6. You're begging for 6 innings. Good ballpark there against Tampa. But I don't see the upside necessarily. Stroman, if you want to talk about opposing lineups, have you seen the Philadelphia lineup today?
I haven't, but it's in Citizens Bank, and there's super wind there too, kind of like New York. What does the Philly lineup look like?
There's no real Muto and there's no Harper.
Yeah. Oh, wow. They're actually the most strikeout heavy lineup on this slate, which is a big deal because every single day it's Colorado. Every single day it's Colorado. And we don't have a Colorado lineup yet, so they might still jump above them, but this is a very strikeout heavy lineup for Philly.
Yeah. But it's still like Stroman's not like this, he's a fine pitcher. Sure. I don't look to pick on him, but that Philadelphia lineup is really gross. Like you said, not a great park to hit, pitch in, and then the wind doesn't help either. I'm saying the wind, is that arrow wrong, Cardi? It's saying like it's going basically toward the first base line as far as the wind. Is that an incorrect graphic that I'm looking at?
Let me look at what I have. I have 20 miles an hour. Yeah, basically across the field. So actually, never mind. So the wind there's kind of a non-factor.
McCutcheon, Matt Joyce, Hoskins, Brad Miller. Geez, Matt Joyce and Brad Miller are the top 4 of a baseball lineup in 2021. And Baum, Nick Matone, Knapp, their weaker catcher, and Audubel Herrera. That is a rough lineup.
Yes, it is.
From a betting perspective, bet the Mets today. I like the Mets. They're going to win today. Sure, why not? Let's kind of work our way down. If there's anything, again, we think it's pretty obvious as far as the pitchers. Lopez is good, but I don't know if I want to pick, I think he's fine. He's an interesting pivot, maybe away from your SP2 as far as Heaney, but I'm not looking to actually pick on him. Is there anything else there that excites you? Pineda?
I don't think there's anything else that excites me, but I think there are other things that you can consider, especially if you want to get a little bit weird, like especially in that Haney price range. If you're looking for guys in that like 7-ish K range, it feels gross, but like John Lester is cheap enough where you can consider him against a bad Marlins team, strikeout heavy Marlins team.
Is he stretched because this is his first start of the season? He had COVID issues. Do we know what he's capable of throwing?
That's a good question. Actually, I need to look into that. Put Lester on hold. Maybe scratch Lester off.
Okay.
But like Pablo Lopez on the other side, I think is fine. As much as I hate Madison Bumgarner, I think he's fine. Like the no-hitter thing is like totally fraudulent and whatever. But Colorado's bad. Colorado's the worst offense in baseball. They're usually the most strikeout heavy offense in baseball. And so Bumgarner's in play, I think, for GPPs, especially looks like we have 7% ownership. Like that's certainly playable.
Rockies lineup just came out. Hampson, McMahon, Story, Crone, Blackman, Jonathan Daza, Fuentes, and Diaz. So basically what you'd expect.
Yeah, that's the exact projected lineup. So
trying to see nobody is willing to take a walk. Just kind of looking at the plate IQ stuff as far as Colorado. And Bumgarner, I don't know if you saw his post-game interview, but he credited the shadows a lot for getting that to, like, I'm doing air quotes with the no-hitter. That Cardi, you're an old school baseball guy. That was not a no-hitter, or that was a no-hitter?
I think it's unfair to him that he didn't get the chance to make it a no-hitter. But no, it's not a no-hitter, because if he was going to pitch 2 more innings, he was a big underdog, a big underdog to get a no-hitter. So I don't know. It just sucks that they're playing these stupid 7-inning games and he didn't get a chance to do it or not do it. But no, it was not a no-hitter.
I always remember years ago, Pedro Martinez, you're probably too young. He had a perfect game going into the 10th inning. Remember Pedro?
I do remember Pedro.
Yeah, and he didn't get it. He lost it in the 10th. There's another pitcher who had a no-hitter and lost. Can't remember who that was, but that's always interesting too, like a walk and an error or something like that. But probably had a bunch of walks. But
I mean, there's a lot of guys who lose it in the 7th or 8th or 9th inning, because it's just hard to do it. So like, it's not fair to say, okay, Madison, like you get a no-hitter after 7 innings, and all these other guys throughout history that got theirs blown in the 8th or 9th, like what? Are we going to give them no-hitters too? Like, I don't know.
He got everybody out. Anybody that stood in that box, he got them out. I understand both sides of it, and like I do too. Yeah, people care about it too much, probably. But people are stats obsessed when it comes to baseball as well too, more so than our sports, it seems like. But all right, summarize the arms. We think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clearly Cole and Haney in cash games. You can maybe make a case for Bieber instead of Cole. That's kind of cash. And then in GPPs, you're pivoting to guys like Darvish, Peralta, Pablo Lopez, Madison Bumgarner, maybe. There really are a bunch of guys that they're even beyond that. There's a bunch of guys that aren't wrong to play in GPPs if you want. There's a lot of decent spots tonight at low ownership.
That Dodger lineup looks so bad, like not bad, but distinctly worse when there's no bets. Like Taylor leading off, then Seager is legit, Turner is legit, Muncy as well. I think Will Smith is solid. Pollock is just he's not. I don't like Pollock. He had a couple of good years with Arizona, and then had some injuries. Are you a Pollock guy? Because I think he's kind of fraudulent.
I'm a big Pollock guy. I know the bat liked him a lot coming into the season, mostly just because he's one of those guys that like people are like, it's Pollock. Like he's old, he's boring, he's always hurt. But like when he's on the field, he's usually hitting better than people are giving him credit for.
Not when he's in my lineup. not when I roster him. He's 2-4. You got to play him. And Beatty and then Lux. I know a lot of people love Lux, obviously. A lot of hype behind him. He still has does he have like 1 home run or 0 home runs?
I think
Isn't
he's
there a thing
got one, doesn't he?
I think he has very few homers. Maybe it's just one. And Peralta, again, he's just a really good K pitcher, and he's kind of interesting for tournaments as a pivot. Let's jump as far as the sticks. Let's talk about catchers. Is James McCann your favorite? James McCann, your new best friend via Cameo. What's the story of that? So you tweeted that out today. Apparently, people from the Bat Chat paid for a cameo from James McCann to talk about lefty mashing, which is incredible. I love this story. Good job, whoever orchestrated that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm on record many, many times saying that lefty mashing is not a real thing because the math says it's not a real thing. Every smart baseball analyst in the entire world says that this stuff is noisy and McCann is going to regress. And we're seeing it this year even. Like, we've seen it time and time again throughout history with these types of guys that if you mash lefties for a little bit of time, after that, you stop doing it. And so he's a fraudulent lefty masher. Everyone likes to, tease me about it. And a few guys from the Bat Chat decided to reach out to Mr. McCann and have him record a video about it.
Just amazing. Do you know what the going rate is? I just pulled it up. We talked about a pre-show. I believe you've never ordered a cameo. I've done it once.
I haven't.
What would you guess the going rate? What do you think? How much he charged for that? You have nothing to base it off of.
I don't know. A couple $100, few $100.
$133, which is an odd number. I'm not really sure why he went with 133.
Oddly specific. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And we're going to play that, chat. We're going to play that when we're done with the show, when we segue to crunch time. Actually, no, we're not segueing into crunch time. It's a different feed. But when we go off air, we're going to play that. Devin's got it queued up. You guys can watch the James McCann cameo, which is, I think he's just confused. Like, he's never heard the term lefty master. Like, he didn't really seem to know exactly what he was being directed to do.
I got the same impression. And honestly, like, that just supports my point because like, if he doesn't even know that he's mashing lefties, it's not like he's doing something special, like to do it. Like, he didn't even seem like he had any idea. So like, guys, lefty mashing isn't a real thing.
Well, maybe he doesn't want to come out and say it. Like, I can just wallop lefties. And he just kind of leaned on and he said, well, hey, look, the numbers are the numbers and you're a numbers guy. So it speaks for itself. What do you want me to say?
Could be.
Is McCann in the lineup today? I didn't notice because I didn't look to think. I didn't think to look for him because it's a righty.
Yeah, he's in there hitting eighth, but it is a righty. But it's a reverse splits righty, so I don't know if that counts.
I don't know how that works. Well, you got to play the results, and then you manipulate your story based upon that. Reverse engineer it. Catcher, you don't necessarily have to play one on Fanduel. Obviously, on DK they force you to do so. What is the strategy? Are we punting here at catcher? Are we thinking about spending up? Who's popping for you?
Yeah, I think this is a punt catcher kind of day. The Bat and I really, really like this Toronto Blue Jays Atlanta Braves game. It projects for close to 12 runs in the Bat, which is a full run above Vegas. And there are no other games that project for much over 9.5 today in the Bat. And I don't think there's any in Vegas that are over 9. So like this is clearly the premier spot. I always butcher the name of the place, but Dunedin, whatever it's called, Dunedin, whatever it is. Good hitters park, good hitting weather here today. It's like high 70s with fairly high humidity, close to 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left field. And both of these offenses are really good. Both of them are facing lefties that can give up home runs. Both of them are facing pitchers that give up a lot of stolen bases. There's just so much to like about this spot. And the pricing on these guys is all, especially on DraftKings, like they're just too cheap. So like picking one of the catchers here, Alex Jackson's 2.6K for the Braves. Alejandro Kirk, you can spend the extra $1,000 if you want on him. I think he's fine, but they are, I think, my 2 favorite catchers today.
Yeah, Darno is actually the DH today. Kirk is a hefty boy. He's a member of Team Girth. I like him when he's super, super cheap. And this is a spot, obviously, you don't necessarily like the player at home. Batting ninth, there's a decent chance. There's a chance that, they only get 3 at bats, but for sure, I'm interested as well. Higashioka seems to be, like you referenced him already. He cracked the lineup for the Yankees once again, and he's at home batting 8th against Skubal and who's been rough. The Yankees are pretty clearly, it's the Yankees and Dunedin. Dunedin's the new Coors. Yeah. Coors is still Coors, but like they have sexier hitters there. Toronto is just more appealing than Colorado. Anything else that's of note as far as, we're not going to go too in deep. You want to save plenty of time for questions from the chat. That's a good time to remind you guys, start loading up some questions for Devin. Fire off some questions regarding the slate. He's going to compile them. He's going to join the show for the last 15 minutes or so, give or take, and we'll answer them. Be specific. Ask us, cash game, tournament, DK, Yahoo, wherever you guys are playing. The specifics do help. Anything else that's of note as far as catchers, or shall we talk about first base?
I think we can probably talk about first base. If you're not playing one of those guys, play a catcher in your stack, or play the James McCann narrative. I mean, that's up to you.
First base. Austin Meadows is first base eligible on DK now, by the way. I don't necessarily want to pick on McCullers, but leading off at 3.4K, if I'm going double barrel, he's one of the appealing options there at first base. Life comes at you fast. We've seen a price hike as far as Jesus Aguilar, some mashing baseballs, and who knows what we get out of Lester, but it's a positive ballpark on the road, decent shot of 5 ABs. Freddie Freeman, I don't know. He's just going to get walked, right? Like, do I want those 2 points for a walk against what's his name? Like, why am I losing the dude's name?
Robbie Ray.
Yeah. Like, Robbie Ray is like the Adam Dunn of pitchers. He's going to strike you out. He's going to walk you. He'll give up some homers too. First base, what are you doing?
I think if you can get up to Vlad, that is what I want to do. I like him better than Freddie. Not overall, in like a raw talent sense, like Freddie's amazing, but Freddie is lefty here, and Vlad is, against a lefty too. So he's going to have the platoon advantage. The Bad X loved Vlad coming into this season, loved Vlad, and it loves him even more now. I was looking, I tweeted about it a couple of days ago. There are only 5 hitters in all of baseball that the Bad X thinks is better than Vlad. It's like Trout, Soto, Acuna, Freddie, and Harper, I think. And that's it. Those are the only hitters in all of baseball that are better than Vlad, according to the Bad X. And he's just in this amazing spot here. So he's expensive, yeah, but I want to try to pay for Vlad if I can today. I think there's other things you can do, like on FanDuel. Joey Votto is another guy the Bad X loves, and he's just super cheap. Cincinnati, outside of, you mentioned this Florida game and New York, like they're the top teams, but I think the Reds are kind of right below them. So Joey Votto is in a really good spot here too.
Anything else of note at first base, or you want to jump to the old Keystone position, second base?
Yeah, I mean, there's ways you can save money and punt if you want to get weird. Alex Kirilloff's still cheap. He's hitting 5th tonight. But first base this year just always feels like it's kind of gross.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at as well. Second base
Braun against Bumgarner, I think he's one of the only actual good hitters on the Rockies, and he's got the platoon advantage. So he would be another guy I think you can one off.
I was hoping John Birdie would hit a little bit higher in the lineup today for the Marlins against Lester. Birdie's got some speed to burn. I don't think he has a stolen base yet this year for whatever reason. Maybe he hasn't been on base a ton. That might have something to do with it. But the Marlins have to manufacture runs, and once upon a time, Lester was, I know he's improved, but he's still not known for holding. General rules, lefties are better holding on runners than righties, but he's not. He is the exception to the rule. There was a season where he allowed 40 stolen bases or something egregious like that, maybe 2015. I think if Birdie gets on, I think he's going. The Marlins have to manufacture runs. This lineup is hurting, especially without Jazz. They're missing some speed. So he's one of my favorite plays, especially when you consider the asking price, 3.1K on DK. What say you as far as second?
Yeah, second base is kind of one of the spots where I don't see anyone that I love from these kind of main teams. So it's a spot where you kind of, I think, pivot. I don't really want to pay 5K for Ozzy Albies. So I think it's a spot where you probably go down. What is his name? Arroyo. What's his first name? I keep thinking Bronson Arroyo. It's not. It's Christian Arroyo. I think he's one of the better plays on this slate. He's leading off for Boston tonight. He's 2.8K. I think he's good. I think Josh Van Meter, also hitting second tonight in Arizona. The roof's open. It's hot there. I think Van Meter is good. John Birdie, you mentioned him. Lester is a guy we know you can steal on. So if Birdie manages to get on base, there's stolen base potential here. David Bodie with the platoon advantage against Miley in this big time hitters park. I think he's fine. So I think second base is a spot tonight where saving a little bit of money is probably the move.
So I should note, we're talking DK specific there. FanDuel, totally different conversation. Their broking pricing has Gleyber Torres at 2.4K at second base. DJ LeMahieu is leading off there at 3K. So like, yeah, that's everybody else sees that too. And you're going to be able to get your stud pitchers not very difficultly with the Yankees, at least in their cash game perspective. You get to spend up 5-4 for DJ on DK, which you can do in tournaments. Sure, why not? But I think it's a terrible cash game play. Anything else at second, or shall we jump to the hot corner third base?
Yeah. So, sorry, 1 second. Okay. Yeah. Third base. Another spot where, again, I don't love anyone from these main games, but I mentioned earlier, I think the Reds are in a really good spot here. Like, they're at home. They're in Great American Ballpark. It's probably like, I think at this point, the Bats projecting is like the second best park in baseball after Coors. Like, it's almost leapfrog Fenway, I think. It's so good for power. It's just really good offensively overall. And Jake Arrieta is not particularly good at baseball. Like, he can give up bombs. He can give up stolen bases. There's a lot of reasons to like Cincy tonight. And Mike Moustakas now, back with the team, hitting cleanup. I think on both sites, he's a really strong value. As Drupal Cabrera, I think Arizona tonight, they're, I don't know if the ownership's not updated for them or what, but like they're, as Drubal's projected for like 0% ownership, the team in general is just projected very low. So I think Arizona could be kind of a sneaky stack tonight. I do like them. The roof is open. It's like 92 degrees there, effectively, probably like low to mid degrees. So it is a good spot, I think, for both sides of that game in a sneaky kind of way. Matt Duffy, against Wade Miley, again, in that Cincy game, I really like that. Urshela, at 3-6 tonight for the Yankees hitting cleanup. He's going to be a really good play. Yeah, that's third.
Yeah, we've talked in the past how Arizona hates their fans, that they have that roof open at like 110 sometimes. Like, what are you doing, man? Pay for some AC, splurge. I don't know what their fan situation is in Arizona. Maybe I assume they have some.
They do keep the air conditioning on when it's open. And last year when they were opening it at like 110 and 115 degrees, there were no fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a dry heat. You hear it like, oh, dry heat, but like it is a dry heat. When there's low humidity, you really don't feel it as much when there's no sun.
I got an interesting nugget, by the way, as far as Van Meter. And I'm always, whenever Van Meter is in the lineup and he's at the top, he feels like a sucker's bet to me. He's like, well, this guy's going to get pinch hit for sure, 100%, which he may. But the Rockies only have one lefty in their bullpen, Ben Bowden, and he worked on Tuesday and on Wednesday. 27 pitches on Wednesday, 13 on Tuesday. Doesn't mean he can't pitch tonight. Doesn't mean that one spot he comes in is not for Van Meter, but the likelihood of him getting pinch hit for feels like less than it normally would be. Yes?
Yeah, that checks out to me.
And by the way, I think Gray's okay. I've always been a truther for John Gray, and I think he's been better than this year. And I took a peek at chat, and then we were running down pictures. People were asking about Gray, and I don't think he's the worst idea. He just misses the board for me, and I'm not playing 150 lineups. If I was, I'd probably get a sprinkling of Gray. Do you have any thoughts as far as John Gray, or it's just sort of you're not interested?
I'm not super interested. Like, even though Arizona isn't a great offense, they don't strike out a lot. The weather's not great. I think on this slate where there's so many options, I just think there's better ones.
Jump back to shortstop, which I think this was the tricky one for me. I couldn't quite. There wasn't a guy where I'm like, this is the guy I definitely want on DK, and I'll probably end up like on Torres just because his price is fine. Facing Skubal in that bullpen. I'm not. He's wearing a Yankee uniform, so that makes him a little bit more appealing, I suppose. Part of a positive lineup that has a team total above 5 facing Skubal, who has some ability, but he's not a fully refined product, and that Detroit bullpen is supposed to be pretty weak, and it's a positive hitting environment. So that's probably where I'm going to land. But as a general thought, I don't love. There's nobody that's like. There's a lot of good hitters, but nobody's like popping like this is the spot for Tatis or I guess Bichette. If you have money for Bichette, sure, he's good.
Yeah, Bichette's clearly the top option here. He's tough to get up to, and I don't think you have to because there are good cheaper guys. I think you mentioned Torres. Torres, I think, is underpriced, and I think Dansby Swanson is underpriced. On the other side of that game from Bichette, 3.7 for him with the platoon advantage against Ray. That strikes me as really, really good. So I think it's one of those two in cash games. I think on DraftKings, Swanson makes more sense. On FanDuel, Torres does. You can spend up, in GPPs, you can do different things. Trevor Story, I mentioned CJ Cron earlier. Trevor Story is the other legitimately good hitter in the Rockies lineup. going to have the platoon advantage. So Story, I think, is worth potentially spending on as a one-off or even in a Colorado stack. I don't hate. But Swanson and Torres are the two, I think, like best bang for your buck plays.
Your Mets, what do you think of Lindor, 3K on FanDuel?
It's FanDuel. Does that really mean anything? Like, Gleyber Torres is 2.4K. 3K seems like he's massively overpriced in comparison.
Story's 3.6, Semien 3.3, Bichette 3.7, Eugenio Suarez is 2.9. But
yeah,
you know,
so also like Lindor is a guy that even coming into this year was more name value than actual production. Like he had been kind of declining a little bit and now playing with the Mets in a worse ballpark. Like I don't think he's this amazing hitter. So 3K on FanDuel, like he's okay. But I don't think that's like a massive misprice in comparison to what FanDuel prices guys at.
All right, going to bring in the questions from chat in just a few minutes with Devin. Give me some outfielders you like.
Yeah, so outfield, there's always a ton. George Springer, I absolutely love. I'm so excited to see him with the Blue Jays this year. He's a guy who the bat thinks is like a top 10 hitter in baseball. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. And tonight at this spot, we've talked it up, is incredible. Love Springer and love Acuna. I think they're both priorities no matter where you're playing. You know, you can sacrifice a little bit at catcher, at second base, at, you know, wherever in order to get both of these guys because they're both fantastic. Best hitters on their teams. Actually, maybe Vlad is better than Springer at this point, I guess, but they're both amazing. And then you probably need to save a little bit on your second spot. Teoscar Hernandez for the Jays, Lourdes Gurriel for the Jays. They're both going to be good plays here as well for all the same reasons. You mentioned Austin Meadows at first base. You can play him in the outfield too still on DraftKings, and I think that's probably the spot he makes a little more sense, especially if you're trying to get Vlad. He's just too cheap for how good he is. And I get that the raw numbers this year haven't been awesome. You know, 217 batting average, 336 WOBA. It doesn't look good, but the strikeouts are down. The walks are up. The BABIP is unluckily low. And he's still hitting the ball hard and at good angles. His xWOBA over at Fangraphs is 384. Like this is a guy who knows how to hit the ball. It's just not going where it needs to go right now. He's getting unlucky, but Meadows is still really good. So I don't love picking on McCullers, but the price on Meadows is too low for who he is. So I really don't mind, doing that. We have, we have other guys that we can think about playing, cheap guys. I mentioned Kirilloff earlier, he's cheap. Willie Calhoun's leading off for Texas tonight and he's cheap. Lewis Brinson against John Lester, who I don't love Lewis Brinson, but like he's cheap. There's lots of guys like that you can definitely make a case for.
I'll just give a little bit of love to the FanDuel. Marcelo Zuna's all the way up now to 3.1K. He was at 2.6. He was 2.7. He's all the way up to 3.1. I think he's still like somebody you really want to get in cash games. You mentioned Springer at 3.8. I think that's a discount. First game back, he was over, but he had some pretty good at bats. I made sure to watch them. And I just, you never really know what a guy's going to do. And it's, who knows what that's even worth. You mentioned Teoscar's 2.5 on FanDuel, super cheap. Clint Frazier, another cheap Yankee bat, is 2.1. Hicks is 2.5 or 2.6. Duvall batting cleanup is 2.7. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of cheap stuff on FanDuel to make things work. Let's knock out some stacks for the people and bring Devin on.
So it should be pretty obvious that I love the Blue Jays and Atlanta tonight. I would imagine, let me look. What do we have? The Yankees are actually projected as the highest owned team above both of them. And that's okay. So, I like New York, but I would definitely, I think, be over the field on Atlanta and Toronto tonight. I think they're both really good in terms of like more under the radar, sneakier type stacks. I think probably the Rockies are really interesting. Maybe the Diamondbacks, they might be a little higher owned, but I think they're both really good. I think it sets up well, given the environment, given the weather. So yeah, that's probably my GPP pool, and the Yankees too. Like you can be even with the field on them or whatever. Like the Yankees are good tonight.
Oh, I thought JD Martinez was not going to play tonight. Didn't they say last night he wouldn't play tonight because of a headache or something like that? But he's in the lineup, and I thought Boston was kind of interesting. I was hoping that roof will be open to consider Boston. According to the Twitter account, he is. It's actually going to be closed there in Texas tonight.
Yeah, but Ari Hara is probably the worst pitcher on the slate, maybe one of the worst pitchers in baseball. So you can definitely think about Boston.
He doesn't look good. Yeah, he does. From what we've seen
Not
so
good.
far, it's not big samples, but yeah, I was digging into him as well. And I don't love these Boston hitters necessarily. I don't love this ballpark in Texas either. But, you know, and you're also locked in for 9 innings on the road. I think if you want to get off the board, I think Boston is a little bit interesting as well. All right, Devin, you got some questions on behalf of the chat. I think you had a question yourself that may have been off the board.
Well, it's not a question, actually. It was just a throwback to an earlier conversation that you and I had. You asked me some time ago if I had any commercials on Hulu that I was a fan of. And at the time, I had maybe some iffy ideas of commercials that I was actually all right with. Recently, there's a new one. I don't know if you watch Hulu recently.
Commercials on Hulu?
Yeah. It's just that, you know, if you don't have the paid subscription. I have it through a family, so.
Oh, I mean, I don't mean to brag or anything,
Well,
but I spend like the $12 a month.
I guess I'm speaking to an empty room here. They have one called Cooper's Tires. It's a pretty funny one. So yeah, I was surprised to see there's actually a commercial I enjoy on Hulu.
Well, there you go.
So let's jump into QQs because we got quite a few of them. John
All right,
wants
fire
to
away.
know, Cash, any concern with the wind in the Yankees game with Cole?
Not enough to take you off Cole. You know, the 30 mile an hours again, it sounds like that's overstated. Sounds like it's more 19, 20 mile an hours to right field as opposed to 30 to center. Cole's really good facing a bad offense. So yeah, the wind's going to go into the projection, but it's not going to change that fact. You know, those two things.
All right. Eric wants to know, stacking the Marlins? I think we're going to get this question every day.
I have been on Marlin stacks many times this year. I'm not on it today. On Fanduel, maybe.
I like some Marlins pieces. I'm not somebody that feels like I have to play 5 guys or 4 guys, and I will. But I mean, I like Aguilar, I like Duvall, and I like Birdie, and they all. It's 2, 4, 6. You know, I get Brinson's a full punt, whatever, but that's kind of where I'm at, and maybe I'll get there as like 2 or 3 guys, but not a full stack for me.
All right. Stan wants to know, DK tournaments, any Uvalde?
You can make the case, but you know, he's kind of just a guy.
All right. David wants to know, FanDuel single entry tournament. I guess we should specify. Dean, you're going to handle FanDuel?
Yeah, dude.
Cardi,
I got
you can do
FanDuel.
DK?
Cardi's got. And if you have a thought on anything, feel free to cross over,
Sure.
Cardi. But yeah.
So this one's for Dean. David asks, FanDuel single entry tournament. This is a 3v3. Simeon, Ozuna, Judge versus Bogarts, Hernandez, and Acuna.
Who is Hernandez? Is that Kiki?
Teoscar, Toronto.
Oh. See, it's tricky because I think that the first one is like 3 guys on 3 different teams. So I like all 3 of them. But, and again, FanDuel does reward you for correlation. And I'm the guy that says you don't have to stack. But at the same time, I don't want to play 1 guy here, 1 guy there, 1 guy here, 1 guy there. So I want some sort of correlation. And I think the second one had a little bit more correlation. Is that correct?
Bogarts, Hernandez, Acuna.
No, neither have any correlation.
It is for tournaments, so.
Yeah, well, give me the first one. I like all of it, but give me the first one.
All right, this one's not really specific to a site, so I'll just get both your thoughts. Viable to stack against Heaney tonight? Feels like a classic cheap / highly owned blow-up spot.
Yeah.
Hard to predict that.
You can do it for the leverage, I guess, but I don't love it.
Haniger is in the lineup for the record. Haniger, France, Seager, Lewis, Torrens, the catcher batting 5th. Moore, Haggerty, Crawford, and then Murphy, 2 catchers. I presume one is DHing.
Brian would like to. Oh, go ahead.
No, good. I mean, I was just gonna say, like, I like stacking against like the non-ace chalky pitcher sometimes, but Haney just projects so well that I'm not sure I love it tonight.
All right, Brian wants to know, DK tournament, who would you fade from Atlanta and Toronto?
Who would I fade?
So I guess if you're
Somebody's
stacking,
doing a game stack.
yeah, if
That's
they're stacking
what's going on.
Who you
They're
leaving
stacking the
off?
game.
Who's not making the cut?
I mean, the whole teams are viable. You know, just build a good lineup that you like.
Santiago Espinal. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Nailed it.
I mean, honestly, they're going to come in lower owned than they should be to begin with. So, like, definitely mix it up, but you don't have to get too cute with them, I don't think.
All right, we're sticking with the stack questions. A little strategy question here for Eric. Is this a good slate for mini stacks, or would you still stick with the 5-3, the blender special?
I'll always defer to Blender about that stuff. So 5-3 sounds good to me.
I think he would say, if I can channel my my inner blender, he would say on a larger slate, the more games there are, the more you need to stick with the 5 stack.
That would be what I would think too.
And we'll stick with the our favorite terms here, leverage. Robbie Ray, would you play him for leverage? We'll leave it at no. We got some questions to get through. Terry wants to know thoughts on Arizona players. You got any bats from that team? We'll ask Dean this one.
Yeah, I think John Gray is okay, but Van Meter is a punt. I don't mind. I'm okay with Escobar, but they're mostly falling back. I do like the fact that, from a hitting perspective, that the ballpark apparently is open as far as the roof, but they are basically collectively secondary plays. If Van Meter makes everything work for me, I'll play him. Otherwise, I'm mostly off Arizona, basically off Arizona. Cardi?
I think Arizona is interesting enough tonight. I think they're cheap enough. I think with the weather, they're fine. It does look like we haven't projected for some ownership, so I don't know if you're getting like a lot of, value with them. I probably prefer the Colorado side if I'm stacking something, but I do think there's plenty of cheap Arizona guys that if you need to one-off one or two of them, totally fine to do it. There's value there.
All right, trying to put our BVP hat on today. Would Adam Duvall be a candidate for BVP?
Cardi?
I know Duvall projects fairly well for his price on Fanduel, and that's without any sort of BVP.
And that's about where you want to leave it, I'm sure.
Yeah, throw BVP in the garbage with all the other garbage because it's garbage.
After the show, we'll have to get Alex wants to know if Rougned Odor is on Cameo. Maybe set up a second episode.
That would be something.
Ryan wants.
For the record, I pulled it up. I'm trying to find it, the BVP here on the fly. I looked at it earlier today, and I look at the StatCast stuff more than anything else, and just see like, well, this guy's 2 for 10, but he's mashed him. He hit him really hard, and again, we've had this conversation so many times. Like, I think it does matter sometimes. Certain hitters see certain pitchers better. Like, that's probably inarguable, but to know who is seeing which pitcher better or worse is the trickier part. So maybe just don't say anything at all. Is that the general take there, Cardi?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
It seems like the prevailing thought is maybe it's a thing, but you can't measure it.
You don't know when it's a thing and when it's not a thing.
Right. Ryan wants to know, do you prefer Kirk to Higashioka?
I do.
Yeah. Higashioka's been hitting some bombs. I think the chat dubbed him Higastroka.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, great.
Demonetized.
Yep. Solid picks. Would like some solid picks. FanDuel tournament. So this one's Dean. How many of your lineups would you use to go expensive at SP? And how many would you pay down to get some big bats? Let's say you're running a 150 max. What's your percentage?
I'm going to run 5, maybe 6, possibly 7 lineups. Depends on how much time I have after the show. I have some reserved. And the majority of them will be either Cole or Bieber, because the aforementioned conversation is you could still get really good hitters with really good pitchers because the FanDuel algorithm is broken. The counterpoint to that is that everybody else sees that as well. If I am going to – now, Haney's a better price on DK. He's 8.7 on FanDuel, which is fine, like perfectly fine. I'm probably going to have one Haney lineup. I'm not going to have a Darvish, I don't think. Maybe a Peralta, but probably not. So, yeah, I think I'm sticking to the same pitchers, predominantly with Cole and with Bieber, and my hitters are still really good. I'm not going to be able to roll out Acuna and Trout and all those guys. Salary is a thing at some point, but I think my lineups are pretty good, and they're good enough to get me there.
All right, let's tie up the Toronto-Atlanta conversation. Is that both sides of that's going to be chalky? Doug was wanting to know.
I assume.
Yeah, probably a little chalky, but possibly not chalky enough, in my opinion.
All right.
I would just say I think Freeman's not going to go heavily owned. And, like, if you're stacking Atlanta, don't say, oh, no, lefty on lefty. You can't roster Freeman. And I haven't looked at the ownership stuff, but I can guarantee you, like, Ozuna's going to get more ownership on FanDuel, like 100%. Yeah, don't be afraid to play Freeman against Robbie Ray. He might walk the first 2 times, but then he gets the bullpen, and he'll bang one out in the 9th inning off some dude.
Ryan wants to know on FanDuel, would you take Vogelbaum as a punt?
Whew. Yeah. Did he say Vogelbaum? Is that
he said Vogelbach, but I put a little flair to it there, Dean.
CEO Team Girth. Yeah, bullpen game there from the Dodgers. I meant to look at this. That's what we're getting, right? It's basically a full bullpen game from LA.
Yeah, we don't know exactly how deep this guy's going to go. Like, he was a starter in the minors, but they're saying it's a bullpen day. So, like, I think probably like 2 or 3 innings is a safe guess.
3 lefties in that Dodgers bullpen: Alexander, Clevenger, and Gonzalez. And we've seen before when a lefty comes on, Milwaukee will absolutely give him the hook of Vogelbach. And I presume, Keston Hiura is almost definitely going to spell Vogelbach at some point. He plays some first base. He's a righty. Again, if he hits a homer in the first inning, who cares? But just be aware that he might get the hook.
And unfortunately, that's going to do us for time today because we have ourselves a little post-show entertainment for the viewers. So we'll get to save some time for that. Why don't you go ahead and take us home, Dean?
Yeah, do like, subscribe, turn on notifications. We appreciate that. I presume Devin was showing off some of our tools, not all of our tools. You want to use them at your own leisure. You can get yourself $10 off the first month a la carte, just one sport, baseball, all the sports with the exception of NASCAR as well. Either way, we'll go ahead and drop that link in chat for you guys. I'm going to assume that the Roth did update the weather. I promised a link to that, so I'm going to get a link to that to you guys in just a second there in chat. Do like, do subscribe. Thank you for asking us questions. Makes the show much more fun. It just flies right by. That 50 minutes was gone really fast. Stay tuned. We're going to have James McCann talking about lefty mashers. Cardi, give the people something good for the road. What should they look forward to as far as the slate tonight? What's happening?
Quickly.
Lefty mashers are fake. BVP is stupid. Hot streaks are bad. Good luck out there. Use real analytics.
Knew where to go. I love it.
That was Cardi. That was Devin. I was Dean. This was Baseball. Thanks for watching. We're out of here. Holla!
What's up, Derek? This is James McCann. I'm just reaching out to you on behalf of the Bat Gang. I hear you're a real numbers genius, and they wanted me to reach out to you and just talk to you about, I guess, my numbers hitting against lefties. Something y'all want to talk about. Numbers don't lie. I guess if you're a numbers genius, you know that. So, like I said, I'm just reaching out on behalf of the Bat Gang. You have to let me know what you think. They wanted me to say something about a quote lefty masher unquote. But again, just go with the numbers. You're the numbers genius. Go with the numbers, man. Take care.